Today's episode is brought to you by Fire Facilities. Make training count with their custom-made all-steel live fire training facilities. Their made-in-the-USA towers and burn rooms are the best for preparing, responding, and surviving the challenges you face every day. Welcome back to 3 Point Firefighter. Today, our guest is, you know what? Hold on a second. I'm going to let this AI-generated voice tell you. Captain Sunderland is a 23-year veteran of the fire service. He's been employed by the City of Altoona Fire Department in Altoona, Pennsylvania since 2008 and is currently assigned to an engine in the downtown district. Captain Sunderland is also a Pennsylvania State Suppression instructor, an adjunct fire instructor for Bucks County Community College, an adjunct fire instructor for Butler County Community College, an adjunct fire instructor for Harrisburg Area Community College, and a contract instructor for the International Society of Fire Service Instructors. And with that, Cameron Sunderland. So you got tornado warning where you're at? Up in Altoona? Yes. Yeah, it's probably the same storm that went through here last night. All that
tornadoes here. We usually don't get tornadoes. It's just high wind due to all the mountains. They get broken up pretty quick.
Oh, geez. You're going to be, what's your next class you're teaching, by the way, for us?
For ISFSI?
Yeah.
I'm doing the Train the Trainer 1400 in Indiana.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll be there. I got one more engine ops class, and that's going to be next week in
I thought that was
Hampshire.
Over.
One more New Hampshire. So Mike McCarthy's leading that one.
That'll be fun.
Oh yeah, it'll be a great time. Listen, we keep chit-chatting like this, or we can just go ahead and start this podcast. That's up to you, brother.
Whatever. I'm here till 7 a.m.
They've already heard the intro. I consider you a very good friend. I think you're a hell of an instructor. I always love working with you. There's not really anybody at the ISFSI I don't love working with, honestly, but there's a few people that when you see that you're going to be working with them, you're like, okay, this is going to be fun. We're going to have a lot of fun with this. So you're definitely one of those guys. Brother, thank you for being on the podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. We tried before. It just never works out.
It never works out. And I've told you this before, and I've told other classes, and people that ask me to, I'll get phone calls sometimes for acquired structure, and I've done quite a bit, nowhere near your league. And I always think of I'll call it the holy trinity of acquired structure instructors. Acquired structure instructors. And that's you up in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Then you got Dave Pruitt down in Texas, and you got Ian Bennett over in Seattle. So you three, to me, in all my travels, are probably the best acquired instructor live burn. Try that again. Live fire acquired instructors. So I guess one of my first questions is, how did you get to the point to where you're doing more acquired structures than fixed facility?
Around here, I mean, that's just to get to a fixed facility. Some places can't do that. It's travel time, and they'd have to take their apparatus out of their municipality to travel, and then they don't have protection. So the best case for them is just find a vacant in their municipality that we show up to give that department live fire, and they're still around in case something happens. So we're not really strapping municipalities as they do their live fire training.
So how come there's not that many burn towers like in your area?
There's a few. I mean, we're fortunate enough that we're within an hour and a half of the Pennsylvania State Fire Academy. So there's not a lot of departments in Pennsylvania don't have their own training facility. You got to find one. So they're spaced out across the state.
Wow. I know there's some states that one of the things they'll do for like grants and stuff for the state is they'll do more burn towers and training towers as opposed to like individual equipment. I think it's Michigan that does that. I think Marcotte was telling me that it's easier to get approval for burn towers than it is, individualized training. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else, but yeah. But you teach 1403 fixed facility, ironically enough. I've taught with you several times. Excellent instructor. You know the subject matter very well. And I always love hearing you talk about acquired structures because you're one of the people that talk about it with great ease. Like some people talk about forcing door training, like we're going to do forcible entry this weekend. Nobody sweats it out. They're like, okay, we'll do that. I've noticed a lot of instructors are scared. lack of better words, of doing acquired structures. Why do you think that is?
It takes a special caliber of instructor to do acquireds. I mean, I wouldn't say it's any more dangerous than fixed facility. It's still live fire, but if you're a fixed facility instructor only, and then you try jumping into the acquireds, you got more stuff that you got to worry about. Now, situational awareness is key. You got to wonder, is it a balloon frame construction building? Is the ceilings going to drop? Is the room we're burning in still stable? Is it still stable to go into a Division 2, or should we start moving to Division 1? Do we have enough weight off our head? Do we burn enough of the roof off to have students in? So people might be a little bit more scared because they just don't have that experience. I mean, you and I both know instructors who they'll burn in a fixed facility their whole life, but they may not have the street experience of actual house fires. So they have a ton of fire under their belt. They just don't understand maybe the actual wooden structure component to it. And that gets a lot of people shied away.
Well, that's one of the big myths I was kind of hoping you were going to bust. I know how I feel about it, but they say some people have told me, it's just too dangerous. Burning acquired structure is just too dangerous. I don't think it is, because I've turned down more houses than I've actually burned in, because people, when they come to me, they want you to burn their house down so they can save a little money. Right. They really don't end up saving any money, because they think that once we burn it down, they go back the next day and there's just like ash in a house shape.
Yeah. I'm dealing with that right now with an individual wants his house burnt, and he's getting upset because of all the paperwork we go through and all the processes. He was under the impression, hey, fire department, here's my house, light it. Like,
right.
No, that's not even close to what we're going to do.
So, okay, let me ask you this. So for where I'm at in Indiana, if I do acquired structure, the first thing I've got to do, let's say I've picked out a structure, I've checked it out, I think it's okay. I always get in the crawl space or the basement. That's what usually stops me. I'll go there first, because why go any further if that is damaged, right?
Right.
So I go there first. 9 times out of 10, that's where I get, no, can't burn this house. Now, that doesn't mean I can't train in the house. It just means I can't burn in the house. But after that, let's say I pick it. Then all I got to do is contact the state representative, and they pretty much, there's like some paperwork, but that's about it. I don't have to worry about anything else. What is it for you up in Pennsylvania? If you found your structure, you've checked it out, you want to burn in it, how much paperwork is involved?
So up here, the lead instructor does everything. We do the site inspections. We meet with the fire department who's going to host the burn. We meet with the owner of the property. We contact an asbestos company to come check to see if the house has asbestos. We contact the DEP. We have to meet with DEP to make sure there's nothing in there that they don't want in the environment. What's have to DEP? Apply to Department of Environmental Protection.
Okay.
They check the air quality to make sure we're not putting anything in the air that they don't want, or if there's any bodies of water nearby that they don't want our runoff to go into. So we have to meet them there to make sure everything's kosher for them. We have to apply through the Pennsylvania State Fire Academy to get approval. The lead instructor picks all the burn instructors for the fire, and I have to get each individual instructor approved by the State Fire Academy. I have to do the burn plan. So up here as a lead instructor, you run the burn. It's not handed off to somebody else to run it for you, and you just show up. You're kind of the one in charge. And I'm not the only one doing it up here. We got some good groups across the state of Pennsylvania burning acquireds. I mean, that's how I got my start, was burning with other groups. And then just in my area, people started contacting me to start. So I started burning. But we got some amazing instructors up here who are traveling the state burning acquireds. So I don't want to act like I'm the only one in PA doing this. There's a good handful.
No, I'm saying it. I'm saying it. You don't say that. Yeah, I'm saying it's on the camera. And I apologize if you see me looking down. I'm taking notes. I want to ask you a couple questions. You're hitting some things that I didn't even think about. So I apologize if it looks like I'm not paying attention, but I'm literally writing notes. I'm going to ask you, come back and ask you.
If I look away, it's just because you're boring me and I don't want to listen to
you. You know what? I get that a lot from my wife. Bless her heart. Oh, you know what? I got to tell my story about a hallucination I had one time at FDIC. I forgot about that. Geez. I'll tell that a little bit. So you have a lot of paperwork to go. Now you've navigated this so many times. Is it much easier for you now, or is there always
Oh my,
something new and different that you're like, oh shit? No, it's
yeah.
good.
So yeah, I do a burn plan, and I like paperwork. I like documentation because I like to
Mhm.
cover myself. I like to cover all the instructors that are assisting me. So I have like a 55-page burn plan I do for every acquired. And now
Damn.
that it's on my yeah, now that it's on my computer, I just delete the pictures from the last burn, put in the new pictures, update the building information. So it's already set, but because we've had issues before where students claim they got hurt at a training fire. And then it's
Mhm.
in the burn plan. I have all the students listed who were there. Like, you weren't even at my fire. You didn't get hurt. We have departments turning in equipment that got damaged at a live fire training. And I go back through my burn plan. I'm like, you weren't even participating at that burn. You didn't damage your equipment at that burn. So I like to document everything because you never know who's going to come back at you.
So that's a robust burn plan for fixed facilities. How many pages do you think you have?
Fixed facility, probably half that.
Okay.
Because usually
All right.
the state is well aware of all the fixed facilities in the state, so they don't need to look at my personalized burn plan to see all the details about this building. They know the building, so then it's
Right.
basically just resorted back to what's my objectives, what evolutions am I going to run, and who's participating. It's pretty much
Now you said lead instructor. Is lead instructor the double IC basically?
yes, yep, yeah. We
Okay,
just
so
call it
you
lead.
don't just do this for your department. You go around to other departments near you. They call you up and say, "Hey, we got a house. We burn it for us." And
Oh
do
my,
you
I
have to come
do.
up with?
I do no training for my department. I'm not one of the instructors here. We don't have a training facility. So
Oh,
any
see,
of
this whole
our
time I thought you did it for your department. You were going out and getting
no,
these houses on your own. Okay.
no, as I teach a lot across the state. I teach for 3 colleges, and those 3 colleges, they cover every county in the state of Pennsylvania. So then as I'm out teaching maybe an engine ops class or a RIT class, while I'm teaching, the chief will be like, "Hey, we have a vacant down the street. Anything you can do with it?" And that's usually how we get the ball rolling with burning and acquired. And then we'll use that house to do our skills for the class I was teaching originally before we burn it.
Are you bringing your own live fire instructors, or do you have to deal with what they offer you?
No, I pick.
Okay.
So
I would say
once
that's
a chief,
that's such a big part of it.
massive part of it. I mean, we've
Yeah.
all dealt with instructors who, once you go from fixed to acquired, or maybe just street level, and you never did a fixed burn, you're just trying to jump straight into acquired. Some instructors just because all it takes is to hurt or kill one firefighter in an acquired, and the state of Pennsylvania will shut that down. And we don't want that at all. We want to do it as safe as possible. So you really got to have the right cadre of instructors to do it properly.
Yeah, and for the same reason you document your 50 plus pages is the same reason you should pick your own cadre, because it's a peace of mind, right? And you
Absolutely.
can expect certain things. I had my own group that I would always use, and when anybody wanted to jump in and kind of be part of it, they usually started. For me, I'd put them on safety, right? So they just have to pretty much follow the double IC around, learn a few things, and they're not getting their hands that dirty, but they're seeing the whole operation inside and out. So
Right.
what do you usually start people in? If somebody says, "Hey, you know what, Cap, I want to be a live fire instructor. I've got all the certs. I'm good to go. I want to work for you." Where do you normally start
I usually tell them no.
them?
Like, if you're just starting out, I'm not going to put you into an acquired right off the bat.
Oh
But
man, what if it was me?
yeah, what if it was you? I would hang the phone up. Um, so up here, I think you've joked with us before as we travel and teach together. We call them arsonists.
Yeah.
Our fire control team, we call them arsonists. So
Mhm.
usually that's where you get your start as an arsonist. You're basically a skid chucker. You're going in, you're making fire sets, you're keeping the fire in check till the students get there. You're building good fire sets so the instructor can teach while you're building a fire set. And that gets you comfortable being around fire. And that gets you comfortable knowing that if I put the skids vertical, or if I put them horizontal, or how much straw does what, it gets you comfortable around live fire. So then you
Mhm.
can back off to the student and actually teach what's happening. So I got my start as an arsonist whenever I started getting around these individuals who burn acquireds, I started with just going in, lighting fires, stacking skids, stacking pallets, and then eventually worked my way up to taking control of one and running from there.
So you mentioned divisions, and I believe, I forget what, one of the case studies that we teach where they used a weed sprayer and diesel. Do you remember that one? I forget the state where that's at. But anyway, I think they were burning the attic first, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you, if you have multiple stories, multiple divisions you're going to burn in, where do you start your burn? On the top?
Absolutely. If the
Every
attic
time?
is if the attic has enough room for us to actually gain access and do some firefighting, we're going to start in the attic. If it's like a crawl space that we can't actually like pull down steps or something, then we'll start on 2 or the top floor. But we always start in the highest part of the house just to burn the weight off the house, because fire burns up, so we don't have to worry about losing the house below us. But
Right.
if we started burning on the first floor, balloon frame construction up here is huge. The fire is going to travel above us, and we're going to lose the house before all the students even get a rotation.
So, for fixed facility versus acquired structure, how many people do you use? Let's say you have the same thing. It's a 1-story, 1-room fire, fixed facility versus acquired structure. What extra safety precautions do you take or do you not take? I mean, maybe you keep them the
Well,
same because you do so many.
it's the same up here. We have to apply through the state to do a live fire. And
Mhm.
regardless if it's fixed facility or not, we have to have a set number of instructors. Because I asked that question. I had one a few months ago. It was just a small little cabin, maybe 3 rooms. And I asked the State Fire Academy if I could do it with less instructors, because I didn't want to take somebody's weekend away from them just to come here and burn a small house. But the state said, no, you're going to use the exact number of instructors or your burn's not going to happen. So up here, it doesn't matter. We use the exact same
Really?
number of instructors. Yep. And
Now, is that a
we
minimum?
rotate.
Can you add to them or is it just
We
8
could.
across the board?
We could add to it. We typically do around 7 instructors, and we
Okay. What do you
rotate. I
think?
know a lot of states don't rotate. We rotate, so it's not like I'm the double IC for 8 hours. We rotate so that we all do every function on the fire ground. We all get a break. We all get rehab. We all get time inside the burn building. We all get time on safety. So we rotate through everything.
Yeah, we my department, my old department, I used to do the same thing that we do when we teach 1403 is well, no, not exactly. I do one instructor with each group and they rotate with them. So you have that content. So you're
Okay.
not getting different students each time. That way, that one instructor is adding some continuity of education there with them by being there to answer all the questions in every role. You don't have to do that. There's a million different ways to skin that cat. But that's just one of the ways I do it. I'm sort of a big baby when it comes to live fire. I love doing it, but I really want everybody safe. So I tend to be that guy that probably has more people than he needs, takes more breaks than you need. I try to do that because I'm terrified of getting somebody hurt. I really am.
Right.
But acquired structure, when I first got into acquired structure, I was terrified of it. I didn't because my experiences as a student were terrible because I was a terrible student, right?
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
it was more of an ego trip to, hey man, don't spray water yet. Let's, don't spray going down the hall. Let's go see, let's go have some fun. Let's take the heat and blah, 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 which is horrible. I know that now. I was young and handsome back then. But yeah, when you're the double IC, you don't want to get it. Come on, I'm a beautiful man. You said it yourself. How many times have you whispered in my ear, I am a beautiful, beautiful man? Come on. None. Okay.
That stays
So
on the road.
I'm a little bit worried about that. I get scared pretty easy about that. Now,
I like to.
what help?
When you said about messing up as a student
Mhm.
for burns. I let my instructors, whenever they come to do a burn, you're taking the students in. You teach however you want to teach. I'm not micromanaging what you do with your crew. But when I take mine in, if they ask a question about what would happen if I do this, we're in a semi-controlled environment. The instructors, we have a line. I say do it, because the students are like, well, what happens if I open on a fog stream right now? Do it. You're going to find out real quick what happens. But if we keep yelling at students every time they open it, like you're on a fog stream, and we just keep yelling at them, they're going to be so petrified of being on the correct stream that they're not going to ever use a fog pattern. And sometimes it has a place, hydraulic ventilation and things like that. So I let them use it. I let them make mistakes, try it, see what happens. We actually changed our rotations on our burns. We used to do a truck function. So there was an attack crew with the engine, and then we had students doing a truck function, which basically all they did was they did a 360 of the structure. They threw a ladder. They came in, they did a primary search. We let them crawl past the fire room. They shut the door to control the flow path, and that was it. Then they exited. And it's like they really weren't getting anything out of that. So we took that evolution out, and we just put in an observer spot. So now whenever that group of students is in that rotation, they come in with the arsonist and an instructor, and they sit in the corner of the room and they watch the fire from incipient. They watch it grow. They watch everything off gas. They watch it get to flashover. They watch the arsonist control the windows and the doors to show flow path. They watch what happens when the fire attack team comes and starts opening doors. Like they're actually just sitting in the corner observing an actual fire attack. And we are getting raves on that. The students are, because that's what they sign up for burn for. We both know that. They're signing up to see fire. They're not signing up to throw a ground ladder. Right. So we figured the more fire you see, and we tell them every time, like, you're never going to see this in the real world if you're not on the nozzle, because the nozzle is going to put it out as I go. So sit here and see if I ever see this condition in the real world, what's going to happen next. Because I remember seeing it at that burn class I took the other week. So we let them sit there and see the neutral plane drop and see the rollover, find the windows. And we're getting a lot better feedback than just crawling past the fire and shutting a door and calling your evolution complete.
I think that's amazing. And I've always said if there's only two classes I could teach for the rest of my life, it would be building construction and fire behavior. And
absolutely.
I think fire behavior, I don't think the fire service puts a lot of weight into fire behavior as much as they should. Now, you and I get to go around teaching a lot of the UL study stuff, and we know the value of it. And well, every time I teach it, I feel like I learn something new and different. But it's not a 1 hour class on target solutions. It's not just reading an article about it. You have to live, breathe, and eat fire behavior like what you're doing to really, truly understand it. Because like you said, well, what can open on a fog? Open it up and see. Yeah, that's self-correcting. Yeah. That's a one-time deal. You notice the difference in that.
Which instructors they're the same as students. Once you become an instructor, you shouldn't quit your taking classes and learning. So I just got in an argument with an instructor at a live fire training we did where he was saying about you can't flow water from the outside while individuals are inside. And I said, yes, you can. You just got to do it correctly. And he's like, well, what's correctly? And I was like, smooth, straight, and steady. Just straight stream through the top of the window, right at the ceiling. Don't move. Don't entrain any air. You're going to take the heat away, and you're not going to get steamed inside. And he argued me and argued me and argued me. So I waited until it was his evolution. And then I hit the attic above him while he was inside teaching. Never told him. He came out, and I was like, hey, man, how'd that go? And he's like, everything went smooth, good to go. Next rotation. I'm like, nobody got burnt? Nobody got steamed? He was like, no, not at all. Why are you asking? I was like, because I was flowing water from the outside. Point proven. So it's hard to I had that same mentality when they said, hey, you're going to go around the country teaching that you can flow water from the outside. I'm like, you're nuts. Because we were always taught you can't do that. And then you look at the UL, you look at FSRI. I mean, it's like, holy crap, you can do it as long as you do it correctly.
That's the trick. I had a captain that hated the idea, as a truck captain too, hated the idea of windows and doors being closed. So this was one of the last live fires I did for my department. And the whole idea was a basement fire. Let me see, it was basement fire, no access. Right. So they had to push down the chimney from the second floor down to the first floor, simulating. And I gave my little speech, my little safety briefing and everything. And I said, make sure you close those doors behind you. Don't open any windows unless it's, strategic, all that stuff. And he pulled me aside and he told me, he said, if I open a door or a window, it stays open. I'm like, no, that's not how that works. And he said, what was it? How am I supposed to, it's so much easier to see. I'm like, okay, I can't argue that, but that's for a couple of seconds. Yeah. So it's tough to get this kind of information to the right people because, well, I was about to say something, but not because there's no reason. There's no reason for it. It's
Right.
out there. It's free. Um, it's easy to understand. The stuff we teach. I don't think either you or I have ever been approached by NASA to work for them. So if you and I can teach this stuff, it's not that hard, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
see how that's a backhand compliment, sort of like, "Hey, for a fat
I
girl, you
like
don't
that.
sweat much." Yeah, there you go. Um, but to me, there's no excuse. I mean, especially if you're in a position of being in charge of a crew or a shift, if you don't know the new science that's going on, or not even new science, I mean it's science. It's been out for 15 years probably.
Yep.
Then you're not doing yourself a favor. You're not doing your crew a favor. And if you're one of those officers, which I hate, go, oh, I'll do anything for my crew, except make them work out, except make them train, except make them learn
Yep.
the right way to do things. But other than that,
I
yeah,
know
you do anything
plenty
for
of
them.
those guys.
Yeah. Yeah. You mean, here's what they mean. They mean like, I'll make sure they get 3 square meals a day and plenty of naps throughout the day so they're refreshed.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's our job. Yeah, you work at a mattress store, brother, if that's all you want to do. But I
Yep.
digress. Um, let's talk more about acquired structure. Let's talk about prepping the structure. You picked a structure out, and one of the things I learned along the way was prepping is key, right? Prepping is key.
Hmm.
It's not just building a set in each room and then going from room to room. Let me tell you a couple things that I learned, and then you jump in and tell me some of the stuff that you have. Like one of the first things I thought of was, hey, and I thought I was a genius for this, by the way. But again, I think I've already stated that I'm not that bright. I'm just handsome.
You
Was
don't
I'm
need
going
to
to
keep
double
reminding
dry.
me. I'm aware.
Okay, well, you look glazed over sometimes, and I want you to remember
Okay.
just how gosh damn
All right.
handsome I am. But
All
I
right.
thought double drywalling above the fire. The fire would be it's going to be the best thing in the world. And I quickly learned that last all but one hose string. And then,
Right.
so we started building out of in a corner. If we have a corner set, we would snap lines where the joists are, and that way we could put like OSB up on the ceiling, so I'd make it last a little bit longer. And then we saw the lines, so like when we had to take it down or add to it, we could. Uh, you got to take all the windows out, obviously. So we would top hinge top hinge OSB or plywood over the windows so they hang down and keep the smoke in, but they're easy just to crawl out of. It's
Right.
just some of the things. Spray painting on the ground, arrows to doors and windows. So no matter where you are in the structure, if something goes bad, you can look on the ground to see arrows pointing out of the room to a window or a door. What are some of the things that you've learned to prep to make things a little bit safer, a little bit better for your brothers and sisters?
So we like to really go through ahead of time and map out the evolutions, where the fires are going to start and how we proceed through. And then it helps us prep the building a little bit better that way.
Mm-hmm.
All of our windows have to open outward. So same thing with your OSB. We either have to have hinges on the side or at the top so we can push them and they go out. The prep is very labor intensive at times. That's why I get a lot of people that, hey, I just want to show up on burn day. I have my certs. I've done this before. I just want to show up on burn day. And I won't allow it because we use the students to help us prep the building on the last day of class before the burn. So up here, it's a 16-hour class. There's usually a 4-hour lecture and gear inspections. And then we do a 4-hour dry runs and then an 8-hour burn day. Well, during the 4-hour after their dry runs, we prep the building. We load our fuel sets, we load the skids, we load the straw, we get rid of all combustibles that shouldn't be in there. We make sure all the railings are secure, all the stairs are secure, any vents in the floor are covered so nobody's foot can go down through, all the windows open out. So it's a very long process of prepping a building. I'm not just going to let somebody show up on burn day and have fun when the students did all the work. I'm going to let them reap the benefits.
What about
But
taking
same
off all the
thing,
shingles?
not really, unless they come back asbestos.
Right.
So we typically burn a house the way it's sitting, unless DEP says something needs to come off because of a hot asbestos hit or something. But typically,
Yeah,
we're
we got
burning
to
the house
strip
the way it's
all the
sitting.
shingles no matter what.
Really,
That
and so
sucks
far we're
ass.
fortunate we don't have to do that. If they're okay by DEP standards, we're good.
Yeah.
We really don't
That's
add a
kind of
lot of
neat though,
stuff
because
like
it's I'm sorry, I interrupt you, but I think what I'm saying, I want to hear my own voice for a second. Um, that's pretty cool for the students though, because they get to learn a little bit more about building construction before the
Absolutely.
burns, just because they're prepping. That's a great idea. I didn't even think about that. I like that. I'm writing that one down.
Yep.
So what I interrupt you on? I apologize, brother.
You said about adding drywall and stuff. We really don't get into doing that. We can if the we just had a small house and only had one room on the second floor, and the fire chief said, "Well, in order to get all my students through to see a fire, can we build walls up there and separate it into three rooms?" Absolutely. So we built three small little bedrooms up there. We added that just to make the day get prolonged, but we're typically not adding stuff. Once you, like you said, once you start flowing water, it all gets destroyed anyway. And if we start flowing water from the outside, maybe we don't want it in the attic space just yet. So we
Mhm.
have people outside flowing water. Well, that's just more added weight that's going to drop on top of an instructor or students. So we typically don't add stuff up here.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. We've actually done to where when we screw anything into the ceiling with wood screws, we'll actually put washers on there so it'll hold even better, even though it's not made for that, for the exact reasons you say. But we usually do it right over top of the fire, so there shouldn't be anybody literally right there. But
Gotcha.
it's a way for us because we don't get a ton of them, honestly. Um, but it's a way for us to kind of preserve the house for a while. Have you ever had any? Like we've had a couple that we're done burning for the day. We go home and we find out that oh wow, they listened to the scanner and they just got dispatched right to that house we were just burning.
Yeah.
Have you ever had that?
So we make the fire department that's hosting sign a document stating when firefighter training is complete and the instructors leave, you are now responsible to babysit this until it's done and over with. So they
Right.
sign that document saying it's over. They're going to watch it as long with the homeowner because technically burning a house for demolition's illegal. We can't do that.
Right.
We burn a house for firefighter training. So once the house is no longer safe for firefighter training, the instructor cadre, we usually leave the site and it's up to the fire department to babysit and the owner.
Oh wow.
One thing we have had though, we did have an instructor get pretty burnt because people flowing lines from the outside that didn't know what they were doing. So we said we start in the attic. So we burnt the attic off this house. We burnt the second floor off this place, and we're on the first floor. And it was my evolution with another instructor. And right before we set up our fire set, we went up the steps just to make sure there was enough weight off. We didn't want any extra weight above the students that we didn't have to. And for whatever reason, and we have, when we do burns, we have GoPros sitting all over the place. We have helmet cams. So we have footage of an individual who was in shorts and a tank top, just walked over and grabbed the rip line with a straight stream and drilled a freestanding wall as high as he could. And when the freestanding wall fell, it fell into the structure and it was a burning wall and it went straight down the instructor's back. 3rd-degree burns. He had to get rushed to the ER, and all because somebody who was not a student, was not part of the program, crossed the hazard zone line and was just flowing water. I don't, just to show off. And
What?
it makes you mad. Absolutely. I was fuming on that one. Absolutely.
How's that instructor doing today?
Well, so it was funny. It was 3rd-degree. I mean, he was hurting for quite some time, for a few months, and I kept reaching out to him, and he said his wife told him when he got home that you are done doing live fire with Captain Sunderland, and he said that's fine. He's like, you're done shopping on Amazon, and she said call Cameron. She said call Cameron and see when the next burn is. So he's doing good. He's back.
That's
Good
good. You're
spirits.
done shopping on Amazon.
Yeah. We have all the footage, so it's we show it usually on all of our burns. On that first day, the lecture day, we usually show the footage. Just be like, listen to your instructors. This is what happens when some random person shows up and starts flowing water to show off. Some fire chief who's not involved. We draw hazard lines on the ground around the house. Like nobody crosses this hazard line who's not an instructor, who's not a student. So I mean, just like 1403, you learn.
Right.
You learn from your mistakes, and hopefully you never make it again. But that was nothing we did, unfortunately. But it makes you really look at your surroundings before you start entering and see who's holding hand lines.
Well, you would never even consider somebody going in doing that,
You wouldn't think,
dressed
right?
like that.
Right?
That is insane. That is
Yep.
absolutely insane.
It's all ego driven.
It is, and that's the thing. That's one of my big things I like to hammer into fire service is that I think it's our ego that causes the most problem. But the flip side of that coin is ego is important. There's a reason that we have egos, and I
You have
think,
the biggest, right?
huh?
Yours is pretty big.
Well,
Um,
am I that perfect? Yes. You know, yeah. That was hard for me to get out of my mouth. I know it was a joke, but that was even hard for me to say. No, I'm kidding. I'm awesome. So, compared to your fixed facilities, how more often do you do acquired structure versus just fixed facilities? Because it sounds
so
like you don't
for
rarely do it.
I do fix facilities, but I'm usually invited as an assistant. I
Okay.
don't usually do leads on a fixed facility because we don't have one in our municipality or
Mm.
one that I'm associated with teaching all the time. So we have good instructors out there who they basically run a fixed facility, and then anytime a class comes through, they reach out to get instructors. So I do burn a lot of fixed facilities,
Mhm.
but very rarely am I a lead instructor of one. It's usually
That
acquired.
to me, it's not that much fun. You know, being double IC or lead instructor, it's just not near as now. It's important. Don't get me wrong. It's actually incredibly important. But put me in as an arsonist or observer or an interior safety any day of the
Yep.
week. I think that's
Yep.
way more fun. What do you? So with 1403, what do you think are some of the constraints for you personally that you just like? Okay, I don't agree with this. I do it, but I don't agree with it. Like for me, I'll give you my example. My example is you have to be an instructor too to be a lead instructor and or a double IC. That goes all through me. I think that is the biggest waste of time ever. What about you?
Well, you're gonna get me fired on some of these.
That's
Um,
okay. We'll edit it if they're really that juicy. We'll just edit that shit later.
so I really don't have a lot because Pennsylvania is pretty strict with 1403, and
Mhm.
they're looking to make sure we're following everything to a T. The only thing I would say I would possibly twing a little bit is the we need to reword one fire per acquired. I understand we don't want multiple fires on multiple floors,
Right.
but sometimes when you get up to, we get some bigger structures. I mean, I've been associated with some big buildings that have long hallways, multiple rooms. It would be nice if the student can go down the hallway and you have 2 and 3 rooms off at the end of the hallway.
Right.
Kind of make it realistic. Like now you're down here, how are you going to use your water stream to hit this room, hit this room, hit this room before a backup line gets there? But
Fire triage, basically.
according to 1403, one fire per acquired, which I
Right.
get. They don't want us burning on the first floor and the second floor, having fire beneath our feet. I get that. But if we could just set off 2 bedrooms or something at the end of a hall, I think that would be more realistic.
I feel like now we're both 1403 instructors, and I think it's safe to say we both believe believe what we preach. But there's also things that our experience tells us differently. Um, with that being said, you think about all the stuff. 1403 is so reactive, right? So like
Oh my.
Rachel Wilson in Baltimore died
Mm-hmm.
because, well, for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons was multiple fires on multiple floors and acquired structure. To your point, but if it had something, say, you're allowed to have X amount on the same floor
Right.
based on this or this. I mean, you could even say, if it's balloon frame, you can't or whatever. But I think it's okay after that knee jerk reaction to say, okay, this was a horrible incident. We never want this to happen again. Instead of banning all of it, especially in today's fire service where everything is data driven, maybe revisiting some of these things to help get that realism back into training. So I've
Absolutely.
never even thought about that. I would have guessed something totally different than that.
Oh yeah.
So that's pretty interesting. Yeah. I'm
You
like,
can
I've
never
never
figure
thought
me
about that.
out.
I never have. I
You
never
can
have. So
try.
this is a great time to tell the story of a hallucination maybe that I had. So again, I've worked with Cameron quite a few times. Cameron, is it okay to say you're not a drinker? You're not really all that
Not
interested
at
in
all.
okay. That's I got to
Not at
pick your
all.
slack up. I feel like I need to pick your slack up and drink more. Now, did you do that to me? Yeah, I think that's on you. So we were at FDIC a few years ago. I didn't know you're at FDIC. I'm still not sure if you were.
I don't tell
Um,
anybody.
You're very stealthy. I will say that.
Yeah.
So I have a night of adult libations, and I'm feeling it. So I'm like, you know what? Before I go to bed, I'll go buy a steak and shake. Although even in my brain, it sounded like this. So I go and order my food, and I sit down, and then I thought I saw Cameron Sunderland in front of me, but again, my vision's a little impaired. My understanding of my awareness of my situation was somewhat impaired a lot, and evidently we talked, and I got up the next morning and thought it was just a dream or hallucination because you never, we all get together, we text each other, hey, I'm here, let's see, want to do this, want to do that. Didn't get anything from you. And then I saw you later and asked you, I told you the story, and you're like, yeah, I was there. That was me. And evidently I was just that drunk, and we were talking, I just got up and left. Is that right?
Yeah, you're kind of a jerk. You just got up and left.
Yep.
While I'm talking.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And then you said,
for the longest time, I thought I hallucinated.
No, you were a jerk. You weren't hallucinating that.
No.
But
no.
You said, hey, I'll text you. We'll do dinner tomorrow. And I never got a text the next day either.
I said that?
I eat dinner by myself.
Oh, wow. With all your friends.
Yeah.
That is fucked up. I didn't realize I said that. Yeah. Sorry about that. But see, at least it's nice that when I do hallucinate, I think of you, right?
I guess. You
got to take what you get, man.
Indy. I go there every year now just so I can relive that memory.
I'm terrified to go past that place. I'm like, does that look like Cameron? That looks like Cameron. Nah, fuck, I'm not going in there.
Yeah, I don't tell anybody where I'm at.
So you don't drink, you take care of yourself. I respect that. Matter of fact, every time that we're doing some kind of class, it's not unlike you to dip the fuck out around 8 or 9 o'clock at night and go to the gym. And I've always respected that about you, that you've prioritized your fitness, you're in great shape, and what I'm trying to say, you do the walk, you talk the talk, you do the whole 9 yards. Have you always been that way? Like for me, in my early 30s, I was a big fat bag of shit. And it took, then I started to run. I know what you're thinking. I'm still a bag of shit, but I'm not a great big bag of shit. Was? But it took me a while to get into running and enjoying lifting and all that stuff. Have you always been that way, or is that just something you did when you got into the fire service? Were you a big bag of shit?
I was still probably. Ask certain people, yeah. I really got hot and heavy into it whenever I started testing for departments. So towards the end of my high school career, I knew I wanted to be a professional firefighter somewhere. So I started working out, and I never stopped. And once I get my mind on something, I just full blown, I go for it. And now it's to the point where if I don't go for a jog, if I don't hit the gym, I feel like crap. I feel like I'm not accomplished. I get a headache. I feel lousy. So even at home, even when I'm not out teaching, midnight, 1 o'clock, I'm at the gym. I'm out jogging because I have to get it in at some point in the day just so I can say I did.
If I could, there's a lot of stuff that I would like to steal from you. That would be one of them, because I have to work out after I wake up and have coffee, or I won't do it. I don't mind getting up at 3 a.m. I don't mind getting up before. None of that bothers me to get up to do what you're doing. But if 11 o'clock rolls around and I haven't worked out, well, that day's shot. But I can't tell you how many times we've taught, like the next day, I'm like, what'd you do last night? You go, oh, after dinner. Oh, I went to the gym. I'm like, we were done at dinner like at 10, bro. Yeah. I just went to the gym. Gosh, I don't know how you do it.
I
guess.
I've always worked out. I mean, at some point in the day, but once the family thing starts, you don't want to waste time with the family while you're at the gym, because with our job and teaching, time at home is limited. So I don't want to waste time with my kids just going to the gym. So I wait till they go to bed. And I mean, my kids, they really don't have a bedtime. It's when they get tired and they doze off, they doze off. So that could be 9 o'clock, 9:30, it could be 10 o'clock. And then once everybody falls asleep, then I take my pre-workout and go do my thing.
Jesus, I don't know how you do it. See, here's a little life hack. Don't like your kids. See? And that frees up all kinds of I'm just saying, like ask my kids. I mean, I even know half their names or birthdays because I'm worried about Jakey. What? Is that not?
No, I feel like I assumed that.
I feel like you're judging me.
I judge everybody, so join the crowd.
A part of the group.
It's a
How,
flaw.
how do you get your crew to work out, or is it your department's policy? I mean, how do you stay motivated or keep them motivated?
So my department has no policy on physical fitness. Once you pass the entrance exam, there's no other annual exams or anything. So
So you could be a
years ago when
Jake.
I became, what's that?
You could be a Jake then after that.
Let's hope not. Years ago when I got promoted, I actually pulled my crew aside and said, "This is my thought. Yeah, we have work, we have weights and stuff in the firehouse, but for three of us to work out in the small weight room here, we get too crowded." So I was like, "We have a gym in our district." I took it to my assistant chief. Like, can I take my guys to the gym? Can they work out on duty? We're still in our district. We're not going to respond. If the tones go off, we're still going to go. He said, absolutely. And my crew that day, the day I presented it to them, they're like, let's go. So I was very fortunate that I had an engineer and a hosman at the time who that they were all about it. And now it's just common knowledge. If you accept an overtime shift or a trade or anything where it's on my engine, you're going to spend the first hour and a half at the gym. That's just a known fact now. Yeah.
Nice. How often do you
That's
get
why
called
we're
out?
doing this that's why we're doing this at 8 o'clock at night here, because we got to work earlier and we hit the gym and got some dinner.
I see. So you'll work out in the mornings when it's easy and convenient for you. Okay, I see what it is.
So we get to work around. Our shift starts at 7. We usually get here at like 6:15, and we do our chores right off the bat so that we can't say that we're skipping anything at work. We still do everything at work that needs to be done, and then we head out and go to the gym before any day's activities or trainings or anything. We still hit the gym. If we have a 9 o'clock training, we're still going to the gym regardless.
Right.
And that was I got promoted in 2016, and I think maybe we've missed 1 day or 2 days, just mainly because we had a fire or something. We couldn't get to the gym, but we haven't missed a day on duty of going to the gym.
Man, that's awesome.
We were even fortunate enough during the COVID crisis that the gym owner knew what we were doing, and he provided us keys. So while the gym was shut down, we could still go to the gym on duty, and the firefighters could still get their workout in.
Wow, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
very nice of
Good
that
working
guy.
relationship. Yep.
I'd say so. Wow, that's awesome, brother. Let me ask you this: we talk a lot about training. We do a lot of training. You know, you care about fitness. I care about fitness. I think that's any training, any part of any aspect of your job in the fire service is made better, I believe, by physical fitness. When it comes to training, though, what are some of your go-tos? What's the kind of training you like to do with your crew that you feel like is probably not usually covered? Like everybody's going to say pulling hose. Okay, fine, pulling hose. It's like when you say, "Oh, it's the best day of your life." Oh, my kids were born. You know that shit. So you got to. What is your go-to training that's not standard? That's what I'm going for.
So the go-to for I can only speak for my engine company, and the go-to for us is we're very short-staffed, and it's just getting worse and worse. We used to have enough firefighters that we had what was called a roundsman, where you just went from firehouse to firehouse and you were an extra, you were a floater. And now every fire apparatus in the city is down to 2 firefighters. So it's usually a driver and myself. I'm typically inside doing stuff myself until the second rig gets there. So
What?
we're very short staffed. So the drill my engine company does, we call it the engineer's drill, is we make sure the engineer who's driving, when they get to a scene, they can get a water supply, get a hand line charged, and get a ground ladder thrown immediately within like a minute and a half. So I can make entry and do my search, and they have a hand line at the front door in case we lose the steps or something. My egress is still protected. They have a ladder to somewhere in Division 2 in case we got to make a bail or we make a grab and we got to come out onto a porch roof, and we secured a water supply. So that's one that we like to just keep. We'll be driving down the road, we'll see a hydrant, and we'll just engineers drill. We'll throw the rig in park, and we go to work.
How in the world? How do they justify 2 on a rig, which means you're
Yeah,
by yourself?
I
How in
have
the world can
no
they
idea.
justify that? Is it all about
It's
the
not even that's
almighty?
not department. Yeah, it's not the department's choice. That is local government's choice. We'll put it that way.
Well, permission to speak freely.
Sure, you can.
They sound like fucking idiots. They don't care about their citizens or their firefighters if they're letting that shit happen.
We're protecting
That's
the whole.
aggravating.
So whenever I got hired, we had 16 on duty out of 4 firehouses, and now we're down to 11 on duty.
That's ridiculous.
And then, I mean, you start tearing it apart. That 11 includes the incident commander. That includes pump operator. That includes the RIT team. That includes the guys up on the aerial. So you're really inside with maybe 3, 4 people. And we don't do mutual aid. So there's
my God, it gets worse.
Yeah, there's no other fire departments coming. So we got to call off-duty firefighters to come man our reserve apparatus.
Jesus, I'm sorry, brother. That's a recipe for disaster.
It can be, but it also gets you a lot of experience. I mean, you look at bigger departments, they might go years without seeing the nozzle or a primary search. And here, since we're so short-staffed, we're seeing it quite frequently. And that's how the guys are getting good at it. They're getting a lot of experience.
I'd say moving a hose is probably second nature to you then.
We move everything dry, believe it or not. We enter dry because it's one person. So we try to get as far as we can safely, secure our doors, and then call for water once we're inside.
Wow. I already loved you before this. Now I'm going to put you on a pedestal. You're a damn hero. All you and your brothers and sisters at your department. If you got to put up with that,
they do all the work. They do all the work. I just run around.
Wow, brother, that's.
Give me a Halligan bar. You can have the hand line. Give me a Halligan bar.
Gosh, damn, that's a lot. I'm sorry your city does that. That's terrible. That is absolutely terrible. That's not somebody not understanding your job and what you guys are supposed to do.
Oh, absolutely. And then that resorts back to the whole physical fitness aspect, where you have guys who aren't physically fit, who aren't working out, standing outside not doing anything because they're gassed by putting the gear on, and they're making the same amount of money you are doing 3 and 4 cylinders, totally fatigued. It doesn't matter. So it's hard to stay motivated at times, but then you realize your family lives in the city you protect. Everybody's family lives in the city you protect. They expect you to be in shape. They expect you to make entry. They expect you to save their kids. They expect you to put the fire out. So that kind of helps with staying motivated to work out. Now that I have kids and a family at home, I mean, it is priority staying in shape. At times it's like, man, at 1 o'clock in the morning, I don't feel like going for a jog, but then it's like, man, if I'm not in shape and I get hurt or I get gassed in a building and can't make it back out, then I'm leaving my family without coming home. And so I prefer, believe it or not, to jog on the hottest day of the year. If it's over 100 degrees, I love jogging in 100-degree weather because that keeps your body used to working in the heat, keeps you used to getting fatigued and keep moving. And so I prefer working in the heat.
I agree with you. And I've done things very similar. I was actually ordered by a captain to quit working out outside because there was a heat index of 105. And
really?
I was having a blast. Yeah, I was having a blast. We ran inside on treadmills, then we went outside and just did functional fitness drills for like 30 minutes and no real breaks. And we were feeling it, but it's the same thing. And then we had a captain who probably hangs his clothes on a treadmill. It's about the most, use he's ever gotten out of one. That's an order. You get in here. You're going to get hurt. I'm like, no, this is how you don't get hurt. This is literally how you don't get hurt. Oh my goodness. Well, brother, listen.
The people who say they can't work out on duty because there could be a fire. It's the same people who probably aren't jogging off duty because a random marathon may pop up nearby or something stupid.
Yes, and for those listening, if you're the ones doing that excuse like, oh, I don't exercise on duty because, what if we get a job? Well, you'll be fine. Trust me. If you do enough, you'll be fine. Yeah, put some Gatorade in your fucking rig. Put your little some of that cake batter stuff that run. I used to use this cake batter stuff when I'd run long distance. Instant energy. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Just get in shape. Care about your community. But I tell you what, it does sound like Altoona is going above and way beyond for its community. And this fire department is, at least. And I did not know what you had to deal with, brother. That's a lot. And that's a lot on you, especially in the position you're in as a officer, trying to make sure that everybody goes home. So
Yep.
hats off to Altoona, brother, all day long.
Mm-hmm. We're trying. Thank you.
Let's wrap up here with the best firehouse prank played on you, or you've played on somebody else.
Or both. I can give you both.
Give me
We'll,
both.
we'll
I love it.
start with the one that got pulled on me as a probie. Looking back now, I can't believe I fell for it. It's one of those things like, what was I thinking? But so I come from a small town in Pennsylvania. We had a single story firehouse as a volunteer fire department. Came here to the city, got hired, and the firehouse I currently work in is main headquarters. It's a 2-story firehouse. So we have the poles from the bunker room down to the apparatus bay. And they said, have you ever utilized a fireman's pole before? And I was like, nah, never. It's the first time. And they said, all right, well, anytime you use it or when the tones go off, you got to pull the wooden hatch and you got to yell man on pole so that people down in the apparatus bay know you're coming down and you don't land on somebody. And I was like, yeah, no problem. So like, all right, let's go ahead and practice. So I lifted the hatch, yelled man on pole, got on, slid down. And these guys did this for like a month, where every time the tones went off, every time they got on the pole, they yelled man on pole every single time. Well, as a probie, I was a roundsman. So after a month of that shift, I got bumped to a different shift. Get to a different shift. First call comes in. I'm upstairs. The rest of the guys are downstairs. I open the hatch. I yell man on pole. And those guys, they lost it. They're like, what did that kid just say? Why is he yelling there's a man on a pole? And it hit me instantly. Like, those guys, they sold it for a month. Every single one of them was in on the joke. They all kept yelling man on pole. I was hook, line, and sinker. And I go to a different shift and I try it, man, and they didn't let me live that down for a long time.
Those are the best ones, man, that take weeks and weeks to pay off. That is awesome.
They did good.
Man on
They did good on that. Some of the ones that we played, we do all the stupid ones with moving mattresses and stuff and all the water battles. But the way our TV room on main headquarters is set up is you got to go through the TV room to get to the first division bathroom. So one night, one of our assistant chiefs was down there and he was sleeping. It was late at night. He was watching baseball, half in, half out of it. I walked in to go to the bathroom and I made it a point to look at him and say, hey, how you doing? And he's like, oh, good. He kind of put his head back down. Well, I went into the bathroom and I jumped out the window and another guy jumped in the window and he walked out of the bathroom. And the chief's like, are you the guy that just walked past and said something? He's like, yeah, what are you talking about? And he's like, I could have swore Sunderland just walked through. And he's like, no, I haven't seen Cam all night. So he was we never told him for quite some time that we did that to him. And then using that same bathroom, we had a guy who, our firehouse was built in 1927. So we had a new guy get hired and he was convinced this place was haunted. He thought for sure it had ghosts in it. So he refused to come upstairs and sleep. He just stayed downstairs and slept. Well, we took that and we ran with it. We waited one night till everybody went to bed and he was downstairs watching TV. Well, we went outside the firehouse with a universal remote and we kept changing the channels. We kept turning the volume off. We kept muting it. We kept turning TV off. And you could tell now he was on edge. Like he kept looking out. He couldn't figure it out. So then we took a pike pole and we opened the exterior window to the bathroom. And we kept reaching in with the pike pole and flushing the toilets. So that the toilets would flush. And then we'd hurry up and shut the window. And he'd get up and look in the bathroom. There'd be nobody there. And then the next morning, we get up from shift change. We're coming downstairs. And he's like, you guys would never believe it. And we're like, you're crazy. None of that happened. We were just messing with him all night long. But he bit out. He's not working at this firehouse no longer. He's working at a different place. Whether it's haunted or not, he'll never know.
There's nothing worse than a bored firefighter in the firehouse, man.
Right.
There's nothing worse. Somebody's going to get got.
Sure is.
Well, brother, listen, I appreciate your time. I know you're on duty and, you got stuff to do. But thank you very much for being on here. I'm a huge Cameron Sunderland fan. I want everybody to check him out. And I
enjoy going around teaching you guys. ISFSI, they've opened a lot of doors for me, and I'm forever grateful. I enjoy meeting all you guys and keep traveling. I look forward to those out-of-state trips.
Hell yeah. And you'll be, we'll be there together in northern Indiana here in a couple months.
Back at the MAC.
Well, I haven't been there yet.
You've never been to the MAC?
No, and I'm
Like
live in Indiana. Is it
like
pretty
a
nice?
firefighter playground. It's pretty sweet. Yeah.
Oh shit.
I taught 1700 there.
Okay. No, I was out of town, so I didn't get that gig. But anyway,
Very nice place.
brother.
It's right beside AMCUS, right beside TFT. I mean, you got everything right there.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. I had no idea. See, you teach something every time. Every time I see you, I learn something new and different.
Take notes.
Take care, brother.
See you later.
Today's podcast was sponsored by Fire Facilities, industry-leading designers and manufacturers of realistic, built-to-last training structures for more than 30 years. Make your training count. Visit firefacilities.com for more information.